Hello and welcome to this Dr. Ross Maths key skill video on identifying the class interval of the median for a grouped frequency table. Let's read the question. Brienne records the lengths of swords and puts them into a group frequency table. Remember, frequency just means how many of each of these groups we have. And remember, these are called class intervals. The class intervals are the different groups. So we have 3 swords with a length between 30 and 50 centimetres, 8 swords with a length between 50 and 60 centimetres, etc. And we want to determine the class interval containing the median. Remember, the median means the middle value. So if we line up all the swords in ascending order of length, what would be the middle sword? Now, it's not possible to actually work out what the median is because we don't know the exact lengths of the swords. We know, for example, these 3 swords have a length between 30 and 50 centimetres, but we don't know what the actual lengths were within that group. So it's not possible to work out the median. However, it is possible to work out which of these class intervals the median sword is in. Now let's first work out how many swords there are. What's the total frequency, the total number of swords? Well, if we just add up the 3, the 8, the 6 and 11, we get 28 swords. So remember, if we want the middle item, it would be half of that, which is a 14th sword. So the median would be the 14th sword. Now I know actually it's not the 14th sword technically, it's halfway between the value of the 14th sword and the 15th sword, but for the purposes of this question it's not actually going to make a difference. So what we then do is we go through this frequency table and look for the 14th sword using common sense. Is the 14th sword within the first 3 swords? Well, clearly not. But is the 14th sword within the next 8 swords? Well, by the end of this second interval, in total, we would have seen 11 swords. So if we've got 11 swords there, still we won't have seen the 14th sword. But when we see the next 6 swords, by the time we've seen the next swords at the end of this interval, we would have in total seen 17 swords. So yes, we would have seen the 14th sword somewhere within this interval. So the median class interval is therefore 60 to 80. So let me just repeat that. We want the 14th sword. It's not within the first 3 swords, and it's not within the next 8 swords because we've seen 11 swords by the end, but we would see it within the next 6 swords. It does help to actually write the running total, otherwise known as the cumulative frequency. So the running total up to the end of this interval is 3, the running total up to the end of this interval is 11, so we wouldn't have seen the 14th sword yet, but the running total up to the end of this interval is 17, so we would have seen the 14th sword by the end of that interval.